right. Hello and welcome to MFSN The Hub. I'm Ross the Boss. I'm here with Casey Vlad at the Bone Scheinfeld, and we're here week 10, Casey Scheinfeld, waiver wire. It's past half the season, and I thought the season just started, Casey Scheinfeld. Big happenings happened today, Casey. A lot of trades, a lot of people getting ready for the playoffs. I'm not talking about fantasy. I'm talking about real life.
Yeah,
and
there weren't a lot of fantasy relevant trades.
Let's talk about what's going on with the Saints traded Lattimore to the Commanders. I love Lattimore. He's one of my favorite defensive players in the league. Great move for them. Mike Williams going from the Jets to Pittsburgh, which I think is a good move for them. What do you think about Mike Williams going to Pittsburgh?
That's kind of the most fantasy relevant, I think, trade of the day, obviously. Look, Pittsburgh needed a second wide receiver. Roman Wilson, I think he's IR now even. They never really had a second receiver when they got rid of Deontay Johnson. So Russ Wilson, as we know, likes to extend plays and throw the deep ball or the contested catch. And now he's between George Pickens and Mike Williams. He's got two of the best at the contested catch. So he's a huge red zone target. If he can stay healthy, I think he's suddenly relevant for fantasy purposes as a pickup. Real Tommy V, welcome to the show, man. It's good to see you every week. Hello. I hope you won this weekend. Feel free to ask any questions you may have.
Yep. But also, I know it's not fantasy relevant, but I'll talk about it anyway. Zarius Smith goes to from the Browns to the Lions. Talking about going from going to a bad organization to a great organization. Congratulations to Zarius Smith.
Yeah.
Zadarius, big edge rusher. I mean, this guy.
Yeah, Zadarius is. I mean, he's the other end with Myles Garrett, and he's the one that allows even when Myles Garrett gets double teamed, it allows him to get to the quarterback, and when they have to focus on him, it frees up Myles Garrett. So they had to replace Aiden Hutchinson. They lost him for the year with that injury. They're still the best. They were the best team in football before
the year.
Yeah, they were the best team in the NFC prior to the trade, and this only solidifies that nobody's going to want to play Detroit come playoff time.
I agree. Detroit's playing great football in the NFC. Casey, you got to make a choice here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Offensive Player of the Year: King Henry, Derrick Henry, or I know you're going to cringe when I say his name, but I got to say it: Saquon Barkley of the Eagles.
Saquon, that reverse hurdle that he did this weekend was crazy. Like, he jumped over a dude backwards. He is amazing. But I think
Dan Ratner move for sure. I mean, Ratner used to do that back in college. You told me, right?
No, he had them, all of them, but his were post moves. Like, he would jump over you to get to the hoop. He wasn't a football guy. So I'm going King. As much as I love Saquon, I'm going King Henry. I mean, he leads the league in rushing attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns.
Keep going.
He barrels through people. Saquon is insanely talented and certainly deserving of the award, but it was like, to me, it struck of when Aaron Judge lost the MVP 2 years ago to Shohei. Look, Aaron Judge deserved it. Shohei was just another level. And so I think it's Derrick Henry.
Other player news, which is big in fantasy. Jerry Jones says Prescott likely to land on IR with hamstring injury.
Yeah.
That's big news fantasy. I mean, I'm not a Dak Prescott guy. I don't have him in any of my teams. I'm not a big fan just because he can't win in playoffs. I know it doesn't matter in fantasy, but it's for me, it's just a reason not to draft him.
Yeah.
I don't even know who their backup is. Who's their backup in Dallas?
Well, it's Cooper Rush. Is their backup, but they also have Trey Lance. Remember, they traded for Trey Lance for like a 4th or 5th round pick in the offseason. And given that Dallas is out of it, right? Like, they're what, 3-6, 3-5?
They say they're out of it. I love
2-6.
They're out of it.
Why not see what you're going to, you saw Cooper Rush last year when Dak Prescott was hurt. You know what he is. I would be curious to see what you get out of Trey Lance. As somebody who owns CD Lamb in Dynasty, I'm in a good position. I hate this. I hope it's only 4 weeks and Dak Prescott is back for the playoffs, because it really hurts CD Lamb's value.
AJ Brown, knee injury, he's day to day. I just had to
Yeah.
report that just because everybody has
How about
AJ
the
Brown.
hit Chris Olave took?
Ooh,
Like, he
good.
was unconscious before he hit the floor. Like,
Yeah, he's not coming back anytime soon.
no, if I've seen some players clear concussion protocol like Drake May and Marvin Harrison in a week recently, but there is no way you end up in the hospital because you were unconscious. I can't see them clearing you in a week to play. So the Saints literally have Alvin Kamara and nothing.
Let's talk waiver wire. Let's get right into it, Casey. We'll start with the quarterback position. On the cover, you suggested Daniel Jones, and I
Hey,
was like, I could never pull the trigger on Daniel Jones. I don't know why.
look, he had
Tell me
a
why.
rushing touchdown and 2 passing touchdowns last week. He had his best fantasy week. If you saw his touchdown run, it was pretty insane. Like 2 tacklers, he just kind of pushed them off of them, pushed them off of him and ran in. Like, fantasy relevance. And they have the Panthers this week. Like, if there's not a cushier matchup in that respect for him. So if you're a Kyler Murray owner who's been atrocious, if you're a Dak Prescott owner and you don't know whether you're going to have Dak next week, you could, I don't know what you can expect from Caleb Williams after he laid an egg. Daniel Jones is not the worst streaming option.
Listen,
He
I'm
might
not
not be
arguing with you.
my top pickup. Aaron Rodgers has a good matchup against the Arizona Cardinals coming up this week, so he could be somebody you could pick up. Tua is still only 60% owned, so, and they go against the Rams. So there are other players out there, but I'm just saying, I don't mind Daniel Jones right now.
I want to ask you about Russell Wilson. Back-to-back wins.
Yep.
542 yards in the past 2 games, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They've scored a total of 63 points, Casey Scheinfeld. I mean, is he somebody, would you drop one of your like tier 1 guys that they're not performing or not doing that great or has a bad matchup and start a Russell Wilson this week?
Would I start? So if I had a struggler, you're saying,
If you
like,
had, okay,
would I start him over? Who would I start him over? I guess that's the question.
okay,
They have Washington, who just signed who just traded for Marshawn Lattimore, so they now have a shutdown corner, so that helps them. I don't know who I'm starting him over. Like, you could put him in the conversation with maybe. Gosh, I don't even know. Honestly, no. I don't trust him.
Do you start? You like golf, or do you like Stafford better than Russell Wilson? Do you like Kyler Murray better than Stafford? Better than
Kyler Murray's struggling, so he's one I might consider starting. That's a good one,
go.
But I still like the rushing upside of Kyler Murray.
Me too.
Russell Wilson just doesn't have rushing upside. Like Caleb Williams, I might start him over, although I like him against New England at home. Joe Flacco has a tough game against Buffalo. Baker is going against San Francisco. That could be a tough game for him. But still,
somebody that's exciting, Casey. I mean, Russell Wilson, I like just because he's back-to-back wins and he's really, they're really playing a lot. They're scoring points in Pittsburgh. I mean, 63 points in 2 games.
Yeah.
For an offense last year that was a total nightmare. I mean, they were horrible. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass. They weren't doing anything last year. And this year they're scoring points. Somebody that I would like to watch, that I watch play on the red zone, because that's all I watch on Sunday, is Drake May. I mean, Casey, over 90 yards rushing last week.
Yeah.
Alone.
I like this kid. Chicago's a tough matchup, but I traded for him in Dynasty a few weeks ago.
Ooh, hear that, folks? Traded for Drake May. Casey Scheinfeld, tell me what the deal was.
Oh, this was the biggest trade I think I've ever done. I am in a team where What was the trade? Let me see if I can
It's a
find
big
it. It
trade,
was
folks. This
it,
is exciting. Casey Scheinfeld need trades. People listen.
it
I
was
mean, this is
bad because my team at the time when I made the trade, I had Tua on IR. I had Isaiah Pacheco, Rashid Shaheed on IR. I had Bryce Young just being benched, so my team was pretty rough. I traded uh, Kenneth Walker and Amon-Ra St. Brown in this trade. So that's how big it
wow,
was. And I got Puka Nakua, I got
nice.
Jordan Whittington, I got Drake
Yeah.
May,
Yep.
uh, I got Jaleel McLaughlin, which didn't matter, and I got 2 first-round picks
Ooh,
in
two
the
first round
trade.
picks. I like that trade, Casey Scheinfeld. Um, let's go back to Drake May. He also passed for 206 yards on Sunday. I mean, I know you just traded for him. Is this somebody that you see rushing the ball like on a consistent basis, like getting close to 100 yards every week? I mean, is
No,
this
not
his?
close to 100 yards.
Okay,
I bet I would put him in the 30-yard range on a weekly basis. If the over under, I'm not a gambler, so I don't know what the props are, but I would imagine it's somewhere around 27 to 29 yards is his prop
right.
every week. I think he runs out of necessity because New England, their offensive line is terrible, and he's running for his life sometimes. Um, they have Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas, who's pretty good. Boutte has turned out to be decent, but they're not a very complete offensive team. I think he would prefer to be more of that um, dual threat who doesn't run as much. I'm trying to think of somebody who a young Russell Wilson, since we were talking about him. If you remember, Russell Wilson in his youth was a pretty good runner, but he wasn't a running quarterback.
No.
Or even Mahomes, when Mahomes first came out, used to run a little bit more.
Casey, let's talk running back position, which is always tough, the running back position. It's like, they're all taken, all the good ones. It's hard to
Yeah.
find a diamond in the rough, but we find it somehow. I mean, I watched Pittsburgh play. Jalen Warren is still under 60%. I still think he gets the ball a lot. I think he's a big part of that offense. He
Yeah. And
catches,
Najee
he
Harris
runs.
hasn't proven the most durable.
Not at all. So Jalen Warren, if you're looking for running back, I don't think that's a bad pick. Somebody that we talked about last week who had over 100 yards last week, and this week he had 90 yards with only 6 touches. Casey Scheinfeld, 6 for 90 yards, was Ray Davis. The guy
Yeah,
with a
but
horrible childhood, and now he's a big star in the NFL. I mean, I know you like James Hook. I get it. But again, we're talking about under 60%. We're talking about bottom of the barrel people. And
yeah,
Ray Davis, I get it. I get it.
if I'm
Tell me.
desperate,
Yes.
I'm taking Ray Davis. If I own James Cook, I'm definitely taking Ray Davis. Like he's a handcuff because
So
yeah,
desperate, but not serious. And
he's
that's a
not
strong thing.
somebody I'm targeting because look, he had great numbers, but he only had 6 touches. At the end of the day, at the running back position, 6 touches is not a fantasy relevant running back. If there's 6 targets in the passing game as a running back, that becomes a little bit more relevant. But Ray Davis and similar guy who I was going to mention today is Audric Estime in Denver. Now, Sean Payton's on the record in a presser recently saying that he's going to get Audric Estime more touches going forward, but he only had 5 touches last week. So when he says more touches, does that mean 3 or 4 more a game? So he gets 8 or 9. That's still, I mean, Javonte Williams, aside from his one game, I think against New Orleans, it was either New Orleans or Carolina where he went for 2 tutties and like 80 or 85
Yeah.
yards, has been underwhelming at best. And Estime is not a burner. He's not going to run away from defenders. He's not a guy who speeds through the hole, but he is big and strong and will run right over you. And that sometimes is enough. And so again, I would more likely go to Estime because I already have Sean Payton on the record saying we're going to get him more touches. But running backs, there's not a lot on the waiver wire. You're looking at injury replacement. So the guys you pick up, you're hoping that the starter gets dinged up. That's the only way they become fantasy relevant.
A couple other guys I just want to mention. We mentioned these guys before. It's just, again, sorry if we repeat ourselves. Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons,
Yep.
still part of the offense. I know, I get who they have on their team, and I get he doesn't get the ball that much, but he's still relevant. He'll get the ball on goal line once in a while too. Bijan Robinson is great. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that if you need a running back, Algier's a guy that they definitely have a whole playlist of plays that he's involved
Hmm.
in. So it's not a bad pickup. Another guy that finally got some playing time, and I've watched a little of it, is Trey Benson for Arizona. This rookie had 9 touches, 55 yards, in his first regular season touchdown for Arizona. I know they have Connors, I get it, but what I'm saying is this: Connors has a tendency of not being healthy, and Benson is still available. It's not a bad pickup. He's already part of the offense, so even if you pick him up and need a running back, it's not a bad start. But he's just
No,
going to get the ball more. I mean, Arizona's in first place. You know that, Casey Scheinfeld?
I know. Isn't that funny? And Kyler Murray had like the worst statistical game ever.
Horrible, horrible game, but they're in first place, which is unbelievable. Casey, any other running backs that you want me to pick up this week?
Not this week. No, I mean, Khalil Herbert is somebody you can look at.
He
Obviously,
was just
Zach
traded.
Moss.
He was
Yeah,
traded
that's
today.
why Zach Moss. They announced is done for the season with his neck injury. Chase
Yep.
Brown, by the way, is obviously the number one there, but they traded for Khalil Herbert to take that Zach Moss spot, and you know he might get some run in him. And he wasn't a terrible player in Chicago. He just with DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson, there wasn't space for him, and so he might be somebody I'm looking at as a wild card. But again, you're hoping Chase Brown fails miserably, and you hate saying that, but that's the only way.
I think
You,
he'll get the ball, maybe, 7, 8 carries. I don't, not over 10. Casey,
Mhm.
let's talk wide receiver. Who's your number one wide receiver this week to pick up?
Ooh, wide receiver. Well, we mentioned Mike Williams. Obviously, he was just traded to Pittsburgh, so he's going to be.
Say with him, so disappointing in New York this year. It's hard for me to
Yeah,
recommend him, but keep going.
and despite, I mean, last week he laid an egg. He was probably the number one waiver wire pickup the week before. That's Cedric Tillman. He's still only 58% owned on Yahoo. That's somebody. And Quentin Johnston, who has
No, go back to
my
Tillman
he
real
mi-
quick. The only reason I'm not recommending him is because they're on a bye week this week. So if you pick him
yes,
up, you
that's
got to wait a
true.
week to use him. So I'm not jumping up and down. Tell me what Quentin did last week. I forgot.
Uh, what he did last week, he had
Quentin
his best.
Johnston.
Yeah, he had his best week last
He
week.
did? I know. I'm just kidding. Great actor.
You
No,
are
I
a great
agree with
actor.
you. I mean, the thing is this, and I'll say it. I mean, do you trust Herbert to go to one receiver every week like a Quentin Johnston? I mean, he spreads the ball around pretty good. I mean, I'm always afraid like I pick this guy up and then all of a sudden, like the next week he'll have like 30 yards. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
I the trust factor's not there yet. But if I had to spin the wheel of chance, I think it's a good spin with Quentin Johnston. This rookie, no, he's a second year guy from TCU, right? Or SMU? Uh,
TCU.
TCU. Close. I said TCU first, so I went. Uh, I mean, I liked him when he's a rookie, and he did not have a great year, and he did not look that good either. He was dropping a lot of balls, but he definitely came into his own last week. Casey, I agree with you, and I guess you believe in him. He brought his name up, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, look, you I think you kind of have to believe in him because he and Lad McConkey are kind of the future there. They traded everybody else to set these guys up. So hopefully,
Now, somebody that you've been high on, I want to congratulate you because you mentioned his own name like every day. Every day. I mean, I think you say his name more than your wife's. If I have to guess, is Demarcus Robinson of the Rams. I mean,
well, it helped
he's
him that Puka Nakua decided to punch a DB and get ejected in the second quarter.
it did. 2 touchdowns, Casey Scheinfeld. The second TD was absolutely stellar. Casey, unbelievable. I don't know if you saw the play, but he made a great catch. Um, is it some? Do you think it's just because Puka was out? You don't think he'll get the ball next week if Puka's playing?
If Puka is healthy, remember he was out and he was dealing with a knee issue. If Puka and Cooper are healthy, That makes it hard to trust him consistently. But
Right.
in a lot of these in a lot of these larger leagues, you have 3 wide receiver spots and 2 flex spots. He's a flex
Right.
play. I think he
I
is.
like it. And the Rams are not out of it. The Rams are playing good football. I like what they're doing with the Rams. It's a youth movement. Their defense is getting better every week.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a Rams fan, even though I live in LA, but I do like watching them play. I find them intriguing, and I do find them offensively. They're fun to watch. Um, and I do like their coach. I do think he's a top 5 coach in the league right now. Casey, what's your thoughts on Ricky Pearsall, the rookie first round pick for the Niners?
Yeah, we talked about him last week, and I know they were
Yeah,
on bye, so we didn't get to see anything. I still think it's Juwan Jennings is the receiver you want
he
as the
said he's coming.
replacement.
They said he's going to be back this week too. They said it's
Yeah,
at
and
least
that's the
he's
one
playing.
I would want to target. They're going against Tampa Bay, which, as we've seen time and time again, you can throw the ball pretty easily against. So it's a pretty great matchup for San Francisco. They might be getting CMC back. That just adds a whole other layer. They just announced today or yesterday that he's trending towards being available in week 10, which again makes Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero irrelevant. But I like Juwan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall hasn't played enough for me to be trustworthy yet. Like Xavier Legette or Legette, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Legit
He's
Xavier.
proven to be a pretty good receiver there in Carolina, similar to Ricky Pearsall in the style of play. But Legette had a full preseason. He was not dealing with medical issues, and that's why he's taken off a little bit. I think it's why you're seeing Keon Coleman have a couple good outings, those sorts of things. Now's the time where you see some of those rookie wide receivers who didn't fly right out of the gate. Roma Dunze had a good game last week. You see them starting to turn into what you're hoping.
I'm going to mention a name. It could be a trigger for you, so I'm going to look at your face when I say his name because you might like have a really bad reaction because you're not a fan of this
fly
receiver.
ball to Aaron Judge. Oh.
No, you're not a fan of this wide receiver. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Ex-Cowboy, now Commander Noah Brown.
Bad Noah Brown.
DC Scheinfeld's not a fan of Noah Brown, everybody. He'll, don't let him fool you with the kind words he might say, but I'm curious to see what he has to say about.
I don't think he's a fantasy relevant wide receiver except in deeper leagues. It's not that I don't like him. I think he's a good complementary receiver on that team, and Jaden Daniels seems to have good chemistry. So he's a flex play, a desperate wide receiver 3 or flex if your roster is dealing with injuries.
Let me just counter your point. Remember Saturday Night Live? You're probably too young. Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, they did this.
Bag of glass.
Counterpoint and point. I mean, I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. It was great.
When he was the toy salesman.
My counterpoint is over the last 2 weeks, Brown has stepped up into a bigger role. In week 8, he played 81% of the snaps with actually more than McLaurin, Scary Terry. Last week, he led the team in targets with 6. He did catch the Hail Mary, which boosted his stats, but he saw him have 8, will have back-to-back 150-yard games last year, so he doesn't necessarily need the Hail Mary to pop off, Casey. So he's getting the time on the field. 81% of the time he's on the field. That's huge. And I like what the Commanders are doing. I want the Commanders to win the Super Bowl. How about that? I want them to win it. I mean,
okay.
I was so angry. I'm not a fan of Tampa Bay. I do like Mayfield, but I was really rooting for Tampa Bay last night, and just to watch them march down the field, Kansas City, and just to win the game.
That was frustrating.
It was a sickening, and that's a good little observation. If you're an away team and you're playing the world champions and you have a chance to go for 2 points. And either win it that way or lose it that way. But I'd rather do that than play a whole overtime.
Just watch them methodically march down the field, and you're like watching this going.
Yeah, it wasn't even they were trying. And the Tampa Bay defense all had their hands on their hips. They were all exhausted. They all wanted to get home. They want to get
And
out
they're
of the
not good
rain.
in
I
the
get it.
first place. And that's another thing. If
No,
you don't have a shutdown defense, go for two.
go for two. Go for two. That's a great lesson. Um, I do like Mayfield. I again, I think
Oh,
Mayfield's.
I root for him. Oh, I love watching him
I
play.
mean, I just think this guy's tremendous. Even fantasy, I think he's doing pretty well too.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anybody but Kansas City, Casey. Anybody but Kansas City.
They're
Even
turning into
though,
the Patriots of the 2000s and
uh,
2010s.
okay,
Um,
Casey. Any other wide receivers that you like for this week coming up that I should be picking up?
I mean, you could go look. Drake London hurt his hip,
Yeah, he's
and we're
out.
not sure if he's going to play this week or not.
Not playing. He's not playing.
Um, if that's the case, then I would look at Ray McLeod. He's not very much owned, but it's a great matchup against that Saints defense this week. So, especially because the Saints just traded Marshawn Lattimore and others, so that would be another wide receiver I might consider.
Like
Juwan
it.
Jennings, who I mentioned, you could look at.
Like it.
Um, Mason Tipton of the Saints, maybe, because Derek Carr has to throw to somebody. He's got no Chris Olave, no Rashid Shaheed, and no who's the guy you like to say his name so much? Bud Means.
But Means is
So
on the IR. He's
right.
out for a while. Yeah.
So you got Mason Tipton of the Saints is another one you can look to, because
Yeah.
the Saints are going to have to throw a lot because Atlanta is going to put up points and they're going to take Alvin Kamara. They're going to target a way to try to keep Alvin Kamara out off the
He's been
scoreboard.
quiet,
So,
Casey. Alvin Kamara started out hot, 2-0 actually.
well, the problem is
and now they're just like, I was
the problem
expecting
is
like another great year, but
they don't
nothing.
have anybody else, and so if he's your only weapon, the defense doesn't have to worry about the secondary. They can put 9-10 in the box and spy Kamara the whole game.
There you go. Let's talk the tight end position. Now, I'll tell you my favorite pickup for the week for tight ends. It's because you don't know what you're going to get.
You're chasing the points.
Yep. Tyson Hill. You're chasing points. He had a touchdown last week, Casey. He had 41 yards, I think, receiving. He had some rushing yards. I mean, if they even include him in the offense as a quarterback, it's totally worth the start. I mean, that's my thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's their backup running back right now. You got Kendre Miller hurt, Jamal Williams hurt.
Wow.
So he might literally be the backup running back. And so he's also a tight end and he can also play quarterback. So yeah, I think it's a smart pickup because let's be honest, after the top 4 or 5 tight ends, it's a dart throw anyway. So why not throw that dart? Your Bengal, he had 30 points this past weekend. Mike Gesicki, in the last 2 weeks, he's been awesome. If T. Higgins can't play Thursday night, because is Baltimore Cincinnati
Thursday night, folks? Baltimore Ravens versus
so that makes it even harder for Higgins to come back. Gesicki again, and Baltimore. This isn't the Baltimore of Ray Lewis days that you and I remember fondly with that great defense. You got Terrell Suggs and all those guys and Ed Reed. This is a Baltimore defense that has given up a crap ton of points. And so I wouldn't mind having a piece of Joe Burrow's passing attack Thursday night. And so Mike Gesicki is pretty much just a tall wide receiver. That's why he's not on the field as much as a lot of other tight ends because he can't block. But he's another one I would consider.
No, he's a big target. Ex-Miami Dolphin. He can catch. And Burrow and him are getting a good relationship together. So I agree with you. That's a great pickup also. I just like when other people talk about Bengals because everybody thinks I'm prejudiced against the Bengals, which I am.
You were letting me do it.
I'll do my dirty work. Casey, defenses, I was looking at it, and I'm going to go with your team, the New York Giants, with them as a start against Carolina, who's just a bad team. I mean, I wish I could say something good about Carolina. I can't. The only chance they has is if Dalton starts, I think they have a better chance to win. I'm not hurt if he's starting or not.
But the problem is, who are you running? You're running out there Coker, Leggett, and now Tredavian is it Tredavian Sanders, the tight end for Carolina? Jadavian.
I don't know. I couldn't point him out in a police
Gosh.
lineup. I know they
Let me,
traded Mingo. They traded Mingo today too. The Carolina
Jatavion
Panthers.
Sanders, yeah, is a good tight end. So that's somebody you can run out there
Yeah,
against the
but I mean,
Giants.
are you
But
really gonna? I mean, seriously, you're looking at your tight ends who are available,
yeah,
and
no, I
you
know.
see him, and then you see like the Bengals tight end or Hill. I mean, you're not going to pick a guy from the Carolina team. There's no
No, I
way.
know.
The only one I
I
would probably pick up, the only person at all I would pick on Carolina is maybe Chubbard Hubbard, maybe just
Chubbard
because.
and Hubbard. It sounds like a really bad law firm.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, there's nobody else on that team I would want on my fantasy team. They're horrible.
So my favorite defense, you said
Who
the
is it?
Giants, who I really
I
like.
said the Giants because you're a Giants fan, and it's coming from you. It's
I
obvious.
appreciate
Coming
it.
from you, it's
I'm
obvious.
going with Atlanta. They're going against
Atlanta. Tell me why.
they're going against New Orleans. That's why. New Orleans fired their coach this week, traded
Yep.
their best defensive player this week, and has
Yep.
none of their top 5 offensive weapons other than Derek Carr. Well, I shouldn't say that. Alvin Kamara is their top
Yeah.
weapon overall,
That's the
but they're
weapon.
but they're missing everybody else. And I just think Atlanta is in a really good position right now. You got Chicago
You know,
going.
Atlanta's like they're minus 300 money to win that division. That's how crazy like people think
I
they're going to
know.
win that division.
Well, because of the injuries, look at the other teams.
I know.
You got
Look at Tampa Bay. Look at Carolina's a joke. Look at Tampa Bay. All hurt the
yeah,
receivers.
and New Orleans. And New Orleans is hurt
And New
everywhere.
Orleans is playing
So,
probably the worst football of any teams in the past 3
yes,
weeks.
7 straight losses. I like Chicago's defense too, going against New England at home. They can really get after it, I think.
Yeah, I don't respect I think the Bears are just, I don't know. I think they're so up and down, and either they play great or they play bad. There's no in between with them. But I think we'll see what happens. I mean, I kind of root for them because I think they're a young, fun team. I like watching Khalid Williams,
Yep.
but he's not going to win Rookie of the Year. It's going to be Jalen. It's good. It's going to be Daniels for sure, right?
At this point, I mean, they're winning the NFC East right now, aren't they leading the NFC East? It's hard to pick against them. I mean, it's between him and I don't know. I mean, Malik Neighbors, if he keeps being the only receiver to catch balls for New York. But
Yeah, he kind of died ever since he got hurt. His name kind of died down a
sure.
little bit. I think Bo Nix is playing well for Denver. No one expected Denver to have 5 or 6 wins.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
Bo
No one
Nix,
did that.
I agree with you. Bo Nix has been a lot better than anybody thought, but he is terrible on the road. And he was
is.
all year, and he showed it this past weekend against Baltimore, and now he goes to Kansas City this weekend. It's going to be
That's easy.
another.
Kansas City's not playing that. I'm just kidding. Kansas City's hasn't lost. We all know that. But
Yeah, and
it's
they're
gonna be
winning
tough
it
for
because
Detroit.
of defense.
They are. But Bo Nix is running the ball. He's
Yeah.
getting he's playing a lot better than I thought he would. Okay, let's put it there.
Oh, but in fairness to you, in the preseason, you felt like Bo Nix was not getting the credit he deserved or the respect he deserved. So you've been
No,
on the Bo Nix train a lot
I was
longer than
always
everybody else.
I like Bo Nix just because of his age. He's like 26 years old, and he's played in college for so long. He can adapt to any situation. When you play like that many years, like Bo Nix did for that, I think he played for Oregon and he played for Auburn. Is that it? Just those two?
Yeah.
I think you kind of learn systems kind of quickly because going from Auburn to Oregon, that's a huge switch. It's not the same system, not even close. And for him to turn on the switch like that and almost win the Heisman that year he had, I mean, he really showed that he can learn a playbook quickly, which he can, obviously. But Denver proved me wrong. I thought they would only win 5 games the whole year. I didn't have them. They can be over 500. They're playing great football.
The Giants didn't prove us wrong.
I hope the Broncos knocked them off for their first loss. That'd be the best. Okay, Casey. So that's it for the show today. We will see everybody Thursday. It'll just be Casey and I. Dr. Dan Ratner is speaking at a fantasy football convention, giving his thoughts and his knowledge to everybody in the country.
Maybe.
So he won't be with us on Thursday, but Casey and I will talk strategy and what you should be doing as a manager of a fantasy football team, how to make your team better right now in week 10. A lot of stuff you should be aware of and a lot of stuff you should be doing with your team that we don't discuss here, but we'll discuss on Thursday. Casey, anything else you want to say?
No, you've kind of covered it all. We will be
And
back on
then
Thursday.
if you haven't, I don't mean we don't talk politics here, but all I'm asking is people to
Just
vote.
vote. Everybody
That's
go
all.
out and
I
vote.
voted last night. Took me 5 minutes. In California. I went in, said my name, said my address. They looked it all up. Boom, boom, boom. Gave me a ballot. Went to the box. Boom, boom. I was out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was that quickly. And if you don't vote and you complain about the political system, what's going on, I won't listen to you. So there you go. But yeah, make sure you vote. It's important. Doesn't matter who you vote for in my book. Just vote. Have a